Everyone has experienced this moment. You're mid-conversation, everything seems normal, and then someone drops a comment that sounds polite on the surface, but something underneath it stings. It could be a compliment that doesn't quite feel like one, a joke made at your expense when others are listening, or even a silence that lingers just a bit too long. Those moments aren't accidents, they're social tests, small, quiet checks to see how you'll react. Will you rush to explain yourself? Will you get defensive? Will you try to earn approval on the spot? Most people do, and that's why they lose control of the interaction immediately. People with high social presence respond differently. They don't confront the test head on, and they don't pretend it didn't happen. They choose something far more subtle and far more effective. Today, we're breaking down exactly how they handle these moments, so the next time it happens, you stay calm, composed, and in control. First, they don't bite the bait. The most common mistake is responding to what's implied instead of what's actually said. Imagine a coworker saying, "Must be nice heading out at 5. Some of us are still here." What they're really suggesting is that you're not working hard enough. The insecure response is to defend yourself, listing early mornings, skipped lunches, extra effort. The moment you do that, you've accepted their frame. The high-status response ignores the hidden jab and answers only the surface comment. A simple smile. "It is nice. Hope your evening goes well." That's it. You don't argue with the subtext. You don't acknowledge the accusation. You treat it like a harmless observation. When you stop explaining yourself, you remove the power of the test entirely. Second, they use silence intentionally. Confidence doesn't rush to fill gaps. When someone asks something invasive or rude, like, "So how much do you actually make?" most people feel compelled to talk immediately. High-status individuals pause. They hold eye contact. 3 seconds feels long, but that pause shifts the pressure back where it belongs. That silence does two things. It forces the other person to feel their own overstep, and it shows you're not shaken. Often they'll start correcting themselves before you say anything at all. When you do respond, it can be as simple as, "Why do you ask?" Or you can change the subject entirely. The pause already did the work. Third, they don't alter their baseline. This is where most people give themselves away without saying a word. When someone feels attacked, their voice changes, their body tightens, their hands fidget, they laugh too much. They touch their face, they soothe themselves. High-status individuals remain exactly as they were before the comment. Same posture, same pace, same tone. Nothing in their body signals that anything landed. The message is clear. This wasn't significant enough to affect me. And that nonverbal response often speaks louder than words. Now here's the move most people never notice, but it's the one that quietly protects your reputation long term. Fourth, they ask for clarification calmly. This is especially effective when someone makes a joke at your expense and hides behind humor. If you react emotionally, you look sensitive. Instead, you look puzzled. You tilt your head slightly and say, "I'm not sure I understand. Can you explain what you mean?" Now the spotlight is on them. Mockery relies on speed and shared momentum. When you slow it down, it collapses. As they try to explain, the joke loses its edge. The room shifts. You stay composed, and they look unnecessarily unkind. Over time, people learn that targeting you isn't worth the effort. Fifth, they agree softly. You can't push against someone who isn't resisting. When someone tries to shame you with a label, "You're always so particular," or "You're quiet tonight," most people deny it. High-status individuals own it. "Yes, I am. I am quiet tonight." No defensiveness, no justification. You're not asking permission to exist as you are. You're confirming it. The tension disappears because there's nothing left to fight. Sixth, they never match intensity. There's a simple rule of presence. The calmer person holds the power. When someone raises their voice, speeds up, or becomes aggressive, the instinct is to mirror them. High-status individuals do the opposite. As the other person escalates, they slow down. As the volume rises, theirs lowers. This contrast forces the other person to either regulate themselves or look unstable by comparison. Think about any argument you've witnessed. The one who stayed calm is the one people remember as credible. That's the authority you project when you refuse to be pulled into chaos. Finally, they know how to exit cleanly. After the moment passes, insecure people linger. They look for reassurance. They replay the exchange. High-status individuals don't. They close the interaction with warmth and move on. Anyway, I'm going to grab another coffee. Good seeing you. And then they physically shift their attention elsewhere. That small movement signals closure. The moment is done. No drama, no revisiting. Over time, this becomes one of the most peaceful habits you can develop, handling things cleanly and then letting them go. When people realize that testing you gets no reaction, no energy, and no reward, they stop doing it, because the only real way to fail a social test is to show that it rattled you. So think about it. Which of these moments do you see people struggle with most? And if this made you rethink a conversation you've been replaying in your head, take a moment to reflect, stay composed, stay elegant, and remember, how you respond quietly shapes how you're remembered. And once you start recognizing these moments as tests instead of personal attacks, something shifts internally. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically, not in a manipulative way, but in a grounded, self-respecting way. High-status people aren't cold or calculating, they're simply no longer surprised by human behavior. They understand that insecurity often disguises itself as humor, concern, curiosity, or even friendliness. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming every comment deserves an emotional response. It doesn't. Most comments are just noise. Tests are designed to see if you'll treat that noise like a threat. When you don't, you quietly pass. Now, let's go deeper, because what separates truly composed individuals from those merely pretending is not just what they say, but how they interpret the situation internally. High-status people don't ask themselves, why is this person doing this to me? They ask, what does this moment require from me? That single mental shift removes the sting before it even has a chance to land. There's also something important to understand about people who test others. Most of them aren't consciously trying to dominate you. Often, they're seeking reassurance about their own position. Your calm response doesn't just protect you, it unsettles them. Not because you were rude, but because you didn't play your assigned role. Another subtle habit high-status people use is selective engagement. They don't respond to everything. Not every comment gets a reply. Not every provocation gets acknowledged. Silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes a boundary. It says, I decide what deserves my energy. This is especially powerful in group settings. When someone throws a comment into the room hoping it lands, and it doesn't, the moment evaporates. No laughter, no tension, no reaction. The group moves on. And in that moment, your social standing quietly rises, not because you demanded respect, but because you demonstrated self-control. Let's talk about emotional economy. High-status individuals are extremely economical with their emotional responses. They don't overspend, they don't give intensity where it isn't earned. They understand that emotional restraint isn't suppression, it's discernment. You're not numb, you're selective. Another overlooked detail is facial expression. Insecure reactions often show up first on the face. Tight smiles, forced laughter, widened eyes. Composed people keep their expressions neutral but warm. Not blank, not icy, just steady. Their face doesn't rush to reassure the room. And this steadiness creates something powerful, predictability. People feel safe around those who are predictable in their emotional responses. When others know you won't explode, overreact, or spiral, they respect you more, even if they don't realize why. There's also a timing element that matters more than people realize. High-status individuals are comfortable responding slightly later than expected, not delayed to be dramatic but unhurried. That extra beat communicates thoughtfulness. It says you're choosing your words, not reacting. This is especially effective when someone tries to rush you into agreement or defense. When you slow the moment down, you regain control of the frame. You decide the pace. Now let's address something many people struggle with, the urge to be understood. This urge is one of the easiest ways to fail a social test. When someone makes a comment that misrepresents you, the instinct is to correct the record, to clarify, to explain your intentions. High-status people resist this impulse unless clarification actually serves them. They understand that being misunderstood temporarily is not a crisis. Over-explaining often creates more suspicion, not less. Calm consistency over time corrects misunderstandings far more effectively than one emotional explanation. There's also a quiet confidence in letting people believe what they want, especially when their assumptions say more about them than about you. You don't need to manage everyone's perception in real time. Another advanced move high-status people use is redirecting attention without confrontation. If a comment starts to veer into uncomfortable territory, they smoothly shift the focus. Ask someone else a question. Introduce a new topic. Comment on something neutral. This isn't avoidance, it's leadership. You're guiding the energy of the room, and notice how different that feels from shutting someone down aggressively. One escalates tension, the other dissolves it. Let's talk about humor for a moment. High-status individuals use humor sparingly and never defensively. They don't joke to cover discomfort. When they do use humor, it's light, inclusive, and never self-degrading in a way that lowers their value. Self-awareness is different from self-dismissal. If someone tries to test you with sarcasm, meeting it with sincere calmness often disarms it completely. Sarcasm needs friction. Calm removes friction. Another thing worth noting is posture, not just physical but psychological. High-status people don't shrink after a comment. They don't lean forward anxiously. They don't pull inward. They take up the same amount of space as before. This consistency communicates self-trust. There's also a pattern in how they end conversations. They don't linger in emotional residue. Once a moment is past, it's past. They don't replay it out loud. They don't bring it up again. This signals emotional maturity. Over time, people learn that trying to provoke you leads nowhere. And when something leads nowhere consistently, people stop trying. One of the most misunderstood aspects of composure is that it's not about dominance, it's about dignity. You're not trying to win every interaction. You're preserving your internal state. That's the real victory. It's also important to recognize that not every test comes from hostility. Some come from curiosity mixed with insecurity. Some come from admiration awkwardly expressed. Treating all tests with calm neutrality keeps you from misreading intentions and overreacting. High-status people are generous with benefit of the doubt, but strict with boundaries. They don't assume malice immediately, but they don't tolerate disrespect either. Their responses are measured, not emotional. Another subtle skill is knowing when not to teach someone how to treat you. Many people try to correct others in the moment. That's not okay to say. While sometimes necessary, high-status individuals prefer modeling over lecturing. They demonstrate standards through behavior, not speeches. There's also power in not labeling behavior. Instead of saying that was rude, they respond in a way that makes rudeness ineffective. The label becomes unnecessary. As you practice these responses, you'll notice something interesting. Your nervous system starts to calm faster. The physical spike of adrenaline shortens. You recover more quickly. That's when composure becomes natural instead of forced. Eventually, you stop seeing these moments as threats altogether. They become cues, signals telling you how to respond, not how to feel. And here's an important truth most people never realize. The goal of a social test is reaction, not truth. When you stop reacting, the test fails automatically. You don't need clever comebacks. You don't need dominance displays. You don't need to win. You just need to remain unshaken. The quiet confidence that comes from this skill spills into every area of life: work, relationships, social settings. People sense it, they adjust around it, and often, without ever discussing it, they treat you differently. This is how reputation is built, not through dramatic moments, but through consistent, calm responses over time. So the next time you feel that subtle poke, that strange comment, that awkward pause, remember, it's not personal, it's a test, and you already know how to pass.